We've been sold the American dream of fireworks on the 4th of July, manicured lawns and white picket fences. We've lived with the mindset of safety and peace, trusting that our leaders are protecting and preserving our best interests. But what if it's all been just a grand deception? What if the God worshipped in secret by government leaders in our nation's capital is in fact our enemy? And many of our leaders have been venerating him secretly through arcane rituals, setting the scene for the incarnation of this ancient entity. What if everything we thought we knew about this great nation was designed to bring about the greatest conspiracy of all time? A conspiracy for the souls of humanity. What if I told you that America was founded by the darkest elite secret societies, and that there are still powerful remnants, active elements, controlling hands in high positions, carrying this torch, and that your apple pie was just a dream?
It is in America that the transformation will take place and has already commenced.
World democracy was the prominent dream of the classical occult philosophers, and it was well known in their circles that thousands of years ago, the mystical orders of Egypt knew of the Western Hemisphere, and specifically a great continent. This continent was America. It was during this time that a bold resolution was made, declaring that this Western continent should become the site of the coming philosophic empire of the world. Now, scholars and historians can't agree on specific dates for this arcane declaration, although it would have been before the time of Plato, based on veiled references in his works.
The Greek biographer Plutarch described ancient voyages that portray this great continent in the Western Hemisphere being visited by the ancient Greeks. They not only reached our shores, but explored part of the Great Lakes area. Through symbolism they preserved in mythology, their knowledge of this very continent we call America, which the ancient polytheistic Greeks called blessed. This continent was anciently set apart for coming generations in the great human experiment of the democratic commonwealth. This great continent would become the new world, the new Atlantis, or what Jeremiah the prophet called the hindermost of the nations.
There has seemingly always been religious persecution, specifically involving the dark arts of magic and occult mystery schools throughout the centuries. It was common for kingdoms to outlaw these types of practices in the public eye for different political reasons. So in order for a nation to fulfill the esoteric prophecies, it must first offer freedom to practice the old religions of the world. Furthermore, when we consider this freedom of religion declared in America's foundation, we now understand that this had absolutely nothing to do with protecting Christianity, as we've been told, but was rather a cloak for the occult societies to freely advance, officiating their long prophesied philosophic empire of the world. America would be a soil rich for the dawning of the new order of the ages, or as declared by our founders, the Novus Ordo Seclorum.
The occult was spreading quickly in the West by the late 1600s, drawing many settlers from all over the world, offering them a safe haven to seek out and practice the ancient arts. Many forms of Babylonian and Egyptian magic, astrology, Kabbalah, polytheistic paganism, and the likes of such were prevalent. And of course, Christianity was also present. In addition, a hybrid mystical version of Christianity was quite popular in those days. Moving forward on the timeline, the celebrated founding fathers by majority are known to have been a mixture of secret society occultists, deists, and even universal spiritualists with a side of Christianity. They tactfully aimed at cultivating the prophesied new world, where the new order of enlightenment would radiate as a beacon of light to all the nations of the world.
Interesting is the belief that America is the land previously known in the ancient world as Atlantis. But regardless if there's any truth to that, we have an ironic bit of overlooked history I think we should mention here. Many early 19th century observers held with a high regard This idea that there was an advanced civilization widely populating the North American continent long before the American Indians ever did. As a matter of fact, in 1811, the governor of New York, DeWitt Clinton, told the New York Historical Society that this was a well-proven fact. And he even went on to explain that there are numerous remains of ancient fortifications that were found in this very country, America, demonstrating a population that far exceeded that of the Indians. But of course, this type of history tends to get covered up and lost in an age of cognitive dissonance.
It's important to note that the 19th century American Iroquois Indians were reported as having esoteric fraternities, or what we would call occult secret societies, among their tribes. This is yet another historical fact that was documented by Governor DeWitt Clinton. Researchers explained these esoteric Indian fraternities to be a form of ancient Freemasonry prevalent in the land. These claims were taken seriously when the Seneca leader, known as Red Jacket, as well as other New York area Indians, were seen wearing Freemasonic-style medals in the shape of the square and compass. This is a fact well documented in the 1903 New York State Museum monograph titled Metallic Ornaments of the New York Indians by archaeologist William M. Beauchamp.
So we see the Luciferian god of Freemasonry thriving in the land, being worshipped and served here long before the founding fathers had officiated the American government. It would seem that neither the early settlers nor the Indians had brought Lucifer worship to the land, but were rather continuing the occult traditions of the prior civilizations of this great Western continent. Multiple civilizations, ancient and modern, living and acting under the same demonic principality, all on the same American soil. This idea is further vindicated as we look to the hidden history of the name America.
Tom Horn explains in his book Zenith 2016 that there is much encoded in the name America. Pointing to the works of famous theosophists and historians, he breaks down rich historic clues into America's secret destiny, hidden within the name. This title America is, according to some people, the title from which America is taken. It is related to Mesoamerican history, serpent worship, and giants, and according to Freemasonry, connects the founding of the United States and its capital designers with wisdom derived from the fallen flying seraph.
According to Manly P. Hall, Amaruka is linked directly with the plumed serpent god known as Amaru. This god was worshipped throughout the Americas under different names. He was the god Quetzalcoatl in Mexico, Gucamatz in Quiché, and in Peru, he was called Amaru. From Amaru comes the word America. Amaruka is literally translated land of the plumed serpent. These ancient American cultures had priestly orders and ceremonies, and according to Hall, these ceremonials are of most importance to students of Masonic symbolism and mystical philosophy, since they in fact establish beyond doubt the existence of ancient and divinely instituted mystery schools on the American continent.
It bears irrefutable evidence as to why the most notable occultists of centuries past had declared America to be the fulfillment of this ancient esoteric prophecy, becoming the world democracy capital, and the manger, if you will, awaiting the coming dark Messiah who will wage war against the saints. This secret destiny was very much in the minds of many of the founders of the United States and can easily be seen throughout our brief history as a nation.
The foundation of America, just like the rest of the foundation of the rest of the Western world, is built around two kinds of building blocks. There is an occult, esoteric set of building blocks, going back to the Enlightenment era, going back to the age of the Renaissance, pulling from ancient mythology. But there's also another form of building block. It is a Christian ethic. There is a Christian Judeo ethic that's also a part of the Western world. And it's the tension between those two sets that we see coursing through America, coursing through all of the world, really. But America is really unique because it's a clash point. You can travel around this country and there's a multitude of Christian crosses everywhere. America's a land of Christian crosses. And then you go to your state capitals, you go to your national capital, you go to your large skyscrapers, and you've got deity statues. You've got monuments erected to pagan gods and goddesses. And so while Christian crosses dot America, representing that Christian ethos that's a part of the American culture, there's also this sense of an occult, esoteric foundation. And the symbols of your democracy, the symbols of your national flavoring is built around monuments and statues representing deities from the ancient world. There's a paradox in America.
Well, I think in the birth of America, they had, no question, Freemasons and others involved in the very beginning. And there were other secret societies besides them. So you have that intertwined in the birth of America anyway. And that was by design.
There was an occult history and destiny, even before 1776. The belief on the old world was that the United States could and would be a new Atlantis based upon the writings of Plato and also by the writings of Sir Francis Bacon. All of this information from the old world was inculcated in the design of Washington, D.C. There was an occult destiny and secret information that would influence the future of the United States.
One of the mystic prophets in the modern fulfillment of this destiny, and we've mentioned him before, was Manly P. Hall. Hall is considered to be the most influential Freemason of the 20th century. Hall was not just an entry-level Mason. He was actually a 33rd degree known as a Grand Sovereign Inspector General in the Luciferian craft.
Manly P. Hall believed that America had a secret destiny, that America is a special nation, that America was somehow set apart to lead the world forward with a new way of viewing not just itself, but viewing the world as a whole. Manly P. Hall had an incredible background in terms of esoteric understanding and occult philosophy. The work he did on Freemasonry, the work he did on occult philosophy, still today forms a very powerful foundation for the esoteric beliefs of various secret orders. Manly P. Hall had this incredible sense that America is a shining city, a city that all the world can look to. Now, he said it all throughout his writings. There's this illustrative model that America is this shining city, this beacon for the world.
Hall knew that the ancient writings all pointed forward to America becoming the philosophic empire that would be the pinnacle of the new order of the ages. By the time of Hall's life, it was already well known that the architecture in DC was predominantly reconstructed pagan temples of the old world, built to revive the power of the old gods, very similar to Vatican City in Rome. We're dealing with replicas of ancient ritual chambers and monuments erected on strategic street layouts that form magic symbols required for high-level sorcery.
Washington, D.C. was designed by L'Enfant, a Frenchman that was hired by George Washington. And he had some rather bizarre ways of looking at things. If you were up on an airplane, of course, there weren't any at that time, but you would see the crosses and the types of shapes that are really reminiscent of some ancient, rather occultic figures and histories, which doesn't surprise me. That has attracted Washington, that is, people that have that particular proclivity over the years, which is why they have a giant Wicca community, and then, of course, a lot of demonic activity. Why I refer to Washington as the most evil place in the world.
The architecture is by design in Washington, D.C. I mean, you've got individuals that were designing occult symbolism, and it's done in a very big and broad way. I mean, it's almost like you've got to be up in the sky to look down at it. You've got to understand the symbolism. That's all about hidden symbolism. You're talking even buildings that would be spiritually charged. They represent something. They, just like the temple in the Old Testament represents, things concerning God, concerning heaven. The Spirit of God guided the folks in Exodus to actually build those things to represent. So it's the alternative. It's the other side. It's them representing another reality. It's on the other side of the fence, spiritually speaking. It draws power. If they're spiritually guided for the architecture, then they're going to be drawing the powers. Ultimately, it involves the spirits that have guided them to take precedence territorially. We don't understand that a lot, but it's all about that unseen spiritual side that has guided them. That's the big issue.
To further investigate, we headed to Ground Zero to meet up with Tom Horn and discuss some of the secrets of popular American symbols and their connections to the ancient past.
44 signers at least of the U.S. Declaration of Independence were Freemasons. They were committed to an esoteric plan. You had Europeans that were influencing the early founding fathers here. Why? Because they had this deeply held occult idea that was based on Bacon's New Atlantis, right? That at one time, in fact, by the way, Bacon wrote that he thought the original Atlantis might have been right here, where Washington, D.C.'s capital city is now. And that this is where it would be rebuilt. This is where it would rise from the ashes, right? To become an occult democracy dedicated to all of the ancient pagan gods. Now, whenever we talk about this kind of stuff, I doubt that most of the people that are walking around us here in the Washington Mall have any clue the forethought that went in to the way this design is laid out, with the obelisk standing in our background. In the other direction, the U.S. Capitol Dome. What this symbolism all means had to do with their dream of building a new occult democracy that would once again give honor to the ancient pagan gods. And in fact, as you know, you can go on the official Library of Congress website and you can read an article called The Most Approved Plan.
Right.
In fact, all of the original paperwork is right over here in the Library of Congress, right? And what does it say? It says that they advertised to all these engineering firms around the world, France, America, right? For somebody to come up with a plan about how the capital city, which Jefferson named the capital city after Capitoline, the ancient Roman city over which Jupiter was the god that ruled all of the other gods. And so they advertised this engineering plan, and all these firms around the world turned in their submissions. They all wanted to get these lucrative Washington contracts, right, to build these buildings and edifices. Thomas Jefferson rejected all of the plans, and our own Library of Congress website tells us why. Because he specifically wanted to shepherd a plan in which this would be built based on the old Roman pantheon and dedicated to all pagan gods. That's what they want, and that's what they built, and that is the reason why, as you and I are standing here in the mall today, you have this obelisk. Now, it's the largest obelisk of its kind in the world, standing 6'6" inches high, 6'6" inches long, each measurement at the perimeter of the base. But it's really based on ancient Egyptian mythology, the original design of which, an obelisk facing a dome, the dome of Isis, the temple of Isis, right? It was a generator. It had alchemy involved with it. The purpose of it was to draw up from out of the underworld the sea